Okay, welcome to video number 18 of the Diaries of a Coronavirologist YouTube channel. Today is the 29th of April, and we are up to just under 3.2 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 and just under 227,000 deaths around the world. So as I've said in my last couple of videos, apologies for the fact I'm posting a little bit infrequently at the minute. I've been preparing some other presentations. So I gave one on Monday that was a seminar to the department I did my PhD in, which is the MRC LMCB at UCL, all of the acronyms. So that's the Medical Research Council Laboratory for Molecular Cell Biology at University College London. And it was a joint presentation between myself and my PhD supervisor. I believe that presentation is going to be posted on the LMCB's Vimeo page, and if and when it does get posted, I'll link to it down in the description for this video for anyone who wants to go and have a watch of that. I've also got a presentation tomorrow for an organisation here in Baltimore called Brewing Up Science. So there the idea is to have local Baltimore scientists do TED-style presentations, so 20 minutes of a very high view of the topic, and it's normally hosted in breweries. Obviously right now we can't host them in breweries, so instead I'll be doing it via Zoom, and that is going to be recorded and will get posted somewhere, potentially even on my channel. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested. So for tonight's video, I just want to do a very quick rundown of some things that have made the news this afternoon, as I saw two different reports on the results of clinical trials regarding remdesivir. So I thought I'd just briefly talk about them on the channel before I finish all my preparation for the presentation tomorrow. So I've mentioned remdesivir on the channel before, and I'd recommend anyone who wants the extra detail to go back and watch my previous video talking about this drug and how it works. But the very quick rundown is it inhibits the ability of the virus, SARS2, to replicate and to copy its genetic material, and so could potentially be an antiviral against this virus and could therefore be a treatment for COVID-19. Now, as I say, I saw two studies today, one that was published in the peer-reviewed journal, the Lancet, and another study that was referred to by Anthony Fauci in a White House press meeting. So one has been published and released, the other one is just being discussed. So I thought I'd just do a very quick rundown because these are going to be making, or the one mentioned by Fauci particularly, is going to be making the news. So I'll start with the study that was done in China. So this was a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled trial and didn't have all that many patients. So patients were enrolled. Anyone who had symptoms and lab confirmed case and was in a 12-day window of symptom onset could potentially go into this trial. And people were randomized into the placebo versus drug treatment groups at a 2-to-1 ratio. So in total, 158 patients received remdesivir treatment and 79 patients received the placebo control. Some of these patients were also receiving other drug treatments. So there was concomitant usage of lopinavir and ritonavir in combination. So these are used for HIV treatment and potentially could be beneficial for SARS2, although that's still to be fully confirmed. And interferon and corticosteroids were also used. So it wasn't just necessarily straight remdesivir. There may have been some other treatments going on in this whole study. But what they found in this work was that remdesivir didn't give any statistically significant improvement on clinical outcome of disease. However, there were some promising signs in that people who received remdesivir earlier, so people that received the drug within 10 days of symptom onsets, appeared to do slightly better than the overall grouping of people who received it within 12. So perhaps the earlier you receive the drug, the better the outcome could be. But there was nothing that was statistically significant in this study. And there are a similar number of adverse events that occurred in the treatment group versus the placebo group at about 66% of people and 64% of people. So Possibly some promising signs, but nothing to get too excited about from that study. But that study was only looking at a small number of patients. So that then brings me to the work that was performed in America by the NIAID that was referenced today by Anthony Fauci. So this was a much larger study that was performed. So over 1,000 people were put into a placebo-controlled trial. So either receiving remdesivir or the placebo. And while there wasn't a statistically significant improvement in mortality outcomes, there was a positive trend. So 8% of people who received remdesivir in this trial died, compared to 11.6% of people in the placebo. So it suggests maybe there's a benefit from remdesivir. But the exciting, or the cautiously optimistic, maybe I should say, news that has come from this early release of data that hasn't been published, just this is what's being said, is that there was a statistically significant improvement in time to, improvement in recovery time. So I'm having to look at my notes to make sure I get the wordings correct for this. So there was a statistical improvement in the time to recovery. So patients that received remdesivir recovered in around 11 days compared to 15 days for people in the placebo group. So that's about a 30% improvement, and that is fairly similar to what's seen in people who receive Tamiflu for influenza, which is a licensed and utilized drug. So these are really promising results, and it's definitely a place from which we can be cautiously optimistic from, to use that expression again. But there are many unknowns. Being that the data isn't fully published, there's questions that I and other people I've been looking at on Twitter to see what people are saying about this want to know the answers to. So for example, when was the drug administered in relation to the onset of disease? As seems to have happened in that trial in China, if you administer the drug earlier, you potentially have a better outcome. So it looked like there was an improvement for people who got it within 10 days versus people who got it within 12 days. So is it something that needs to be administered very early on in the onset of symptoms in order to be effective? That's not necessarily a criticism, but just something that is going to be interesting to see when these data are properly published. Another question that I was thinking about is whether this is an improvement for people who are already in intensive care. So people who've got to a point of being on a ventilator, for instance, are they coming out of being in such a severe condition quicker? Or is it only people who are on the more mild end of disease? Remdesivir has to be given intravenously, so I'm assuming that everyone receiving the drug is already hospitalized, so already in a severe condition, but there is a gradation in severity within people who have been hospitalized. So I'm curious to know what degree of severity the people who improved were at, and whether this is going to be beneficial to get people out of the intensive care unit, or whether it's going to be beneficial for keeping people from going into the intensive care unit. Similarly, is there any impact on age? So this SARS-CoV-2 infection causing COVID-19 seems to still be having this age skew, in that older people are suffering more severe disease. So is the treatment and the people who are having this statistically significant improvement in recovery of symptoms, or time to recovery, are they older or younger, or does it not matter? So just things I'm thinking about and want to see the data for, and I'm hopeful that the data will be published sooner rather than later. So I'm optimistic. This is some good news that maybe we have a drug that could be beneficial for people, and any good news at this stage is something to be happy about. But there are questions, and we do need the data to be published so that we can look at it, and we do need more patients to be studied. So we need patience in terms of time so that we can look at more data and we can see if this is beneficial for more people. And we also need more patients to be treated. Sorry, I couldn't help myself doing that. But hopefully today is a moment where we receive some good news, and from here we can build on to developing treatment. Even if it's that remdesivir starts to be used in combination, or it's only beneficial for people if you catch it early enough, that's still good news because we don't have anything to treat COVID-19 with right now. So any good news is good news. And that's where all I want to say for tonight. As I say, I'm trying to focus on doing these 2 other presentations this week, and I've got 1 more to do tomorrow. So I'll get back to spending more time preparing these videos next week and start publishing more of them and go back to doing it a bit more frequently. As always, if you're enjoying these videos, if you're finding them beneficial or useful, please share them, please subscribe to the channel, please feel free to leave comments and questions. I will try and get around to doing the questions that people are leaving on the channel, answering those questions. And please keep dropping likes and all those YouTube metric things. As always, please stay safe, wash your hands, don't drink bleach. I'm going to do that another couple of times. Don't try and find ways to get UV light inside the body either. I don't think you'll be successful. And please keep calm and carry on. Today we might have got some good news about COVID-19, and so there's cautious optimism to move forward with. So thank you for watching.